Welcome, and thank you for joining Caring for Your Workplace, Workplace Injury Prevention and Return to Work Essentials. This four-part training series aims to equip employers with practical knowledge and tools to effectively prevent, respond to, and manage workplace injuries, thereby supporting employee retention. The goal is to support safe work environments, ensure compliance with applicable regulations, and promote timely, successful return to work outcomes. Through these sessions, employers will gain a better understanding of their role in supporting employee well-being while reducing risk and maintaining productivity. This training is sponsored by Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services and delivered through a grant from the Minnesota Retain Program. I am Kristen Yeager, CMJTS HR Director. CMJTS works closely with businesses in 11 counties in central Minnesota, helping them make their business grow. We are working with employers to connect them with qualified workers, connect them with employee training, including incumbent worker training, on-the-job training, work experience, and registered apprenticeships. We also help connect them with business, resource, and support. A business in central Minnesota looking to grow your business and would like to learn more about the services CMJTS can provide, contact our team of business service coordinators or scan the QR code for more information on our website. This training series is simple to give you practical tools you can use to prevent workplace injuries and respond effectively when they happen. No matter the size or type of your organization, workplace injuries can happen, but many of them are preventable. How you respond in the moment can make a big difference in achieving a successful outcome. This Caring for Your Workforce training will consist of 2 modules, and each module will consist of 2 parts. Module 1 will focus on workplace prevention and response. Today in Module 1, Part 1, we will focus on incident identification and prevention. We will identify the most common workplace injuries, talk about why they happen, and then discuss prevention strategies. This information will be useful for any employer and will focus on the requirements and responsibilities for Minnesota employers. Throughout each module, you will be provided with simple-to-use toolkits, resources, and information to ensure your workplace injury practices are effective, communicated clearly, and follow current state and federal regulations. In Module 1, Part 2, we will focus on appropriate business response to workplace injury. We will talk about important steps that need to be completed, timelines you must follow, as well as best practices and appropriate follow-up. We will also introduce the return to work principles and talk about why it is important to have a return to work plan. Module 2 will do a deeper dive into return to work essentials. We will look at different industries, explore creative return to work options, and do problem solving with a variety of barriers that exist. Now that you've heard a bit about the training series, welcome to Part 1. Today we'll walk through common types of injuries, why they happen, how to make sure hazards are reported before they cause an accident, and better yet, how to prevent them. Your toolkit for Part 1 will include tools such as safety checklists, compliance resources, injury prevention guidelines, and ergonomics information. As you go through this training, I encourage you to think about how your current processes could be streamlined or improved with the help of these tools. The goal is to make this as easy and actionable as possible for you and your team. Let's get started. Look at workplace injuries across a variety of industries. Most fall into a few common categories. These include slips, trips, and falls, overexertion or lifting injuries, repetitive motion injuries, and incidents involving equipment or tools. The most important thing to understand is that these injuries are not random. They tend to happen in predictable ways. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics cites that trips, slips, and falls account for roughly 15% of all workers' compensation claims, and in 2024, they accounted for over 800 work-related deaths. Overexertion remains the leading cause of serious non-fatal injuries, with nearly 1 million cases involving days away from work, job restriction, or transfer in 2023. Repetitive motion injuries account for approximately 30% of all workers' compensation costs in the United States, making them the single most expensive category of workplace injury. Equipment-related incidents cost employers an average of $40,000 to $60,000 per claim, which include medical costs, lost productivity, and potential OSHA fines. A significant number of equipment incidents occur during maintenance, cleaning, or setup, not during normal production. This highlights the need for following proper lockout, tagout protocols. The key takeaway here is this: if injuries are predictable, they are also preventable, and that's where employers can make a real impact. Easy to assume that injuries happen because someone made a mistake, but in most cases, that's not the full story. Workplace injuries are usually the result of underlying issues in the system. This can include things like lack of training, unclear processes, unsafe work environments, or employees working while fatigued or under pressure. Communication also plays a big role. If employees don't feel comfortable speaking up about hazards or concerns, small issues can quickly turn into bigger problems. So, instead of asking, "Who caused this?" a better question is, "What allowed this to happen?" When you start looking at injuries this way, you can begin to fix the root causes, not just the symptoms. We'll take a moment and read 4 different scenarios. Please feel free to pause the video to fully read the scenario. In this first scenario, the injury was not caused by carelessness alone. It was caused by a system that assumed workers knew what they were never taught. Training is not a formality. It is a legal obligation and a life-saving investment. New hire and annual safety trainings are critical and necessary. This scenario involves a safety guard that was removed and never replaced. Unsafe equipment and broken processes don't announce themselves. They quietly wait for the right moment. Employers have a legal and moral duty to inspect equipment regularly, act on reported hazards promptly, and never allow productivity to take priority over a safe working environment. In this scenario, a company was understaffed and their employees overworked. Fatigue is not a personal weakness. It is a workplace hazard. When employees are overworked, under-rested, and pushed beyond safe limits, their bodies and minds cannot perform the way safety depends on them to. Employers who manage workload and fatigue proactively are not just being compassionate, they are actively preventing injuries, reducing liability, and protecting their bottom line. And finally, in this scenario, someone knew about a risk. The injury happened not because the hazard was hidden, but because the information never reached the person who needed it the most. Effective workplace safety is not just about rules and equipment. It is about building communication systems that ensure the right information reaches the right people at the right time every time. The good news is that preventing workplace injuries does not have to be complicated. In fact, some of the most effective strategies are also the simplest. Start with regular safety check-ins. This doesn't have to be formal. Just taking a few minutes to walk through a workspace and ask, what could potentially cause harm here, can go a long way. Encourage employees to report hazards early. The sooner you know about an issue, the easier it is to fix. Basic ergonomics is another key area. Making sure workstations, tools, and tasks are set up in a way that reduces strain on the body. And finally, creating a culture where safety is part of everyday conversations, not just something that comes up after an incident. A simple mindset shift can be very powerful. Don't wait for something to go wrong. Look for what could go wrong and address it early. A safety check-in is a structured, proactive process where employers and supervisors regularly assess workplace conditions, employee well-being, and potential hazards before an injury occurs. It is the difference between reacting to injuries and preventing them. To be successful, look through these best practices. Schedule it, don't wing it. Document everything. Follow up visibly. Rotate responsibilities. Tie check-ins to shift changes, and use photos. A safety check-in is not a bureaucratic exercise. It is a conversation. It signals to every employee that their safety is the first priority of every single shift. Organizations that build consistent check-in habits don't just have fewer injuries. They build workplaces where people trust that someone is looking out for them. Hazard identification is the foundation of every effective workplace safety program. It is the proactive process of recognizing conditions, behaviors, equipment, or processes that have the potential to cause injury before that injury occurs. Employers who build strong hazard identification systems do not wait for an injury to tell them what is wrong. They find the problem first. They do this by first looking. What could go wrong here? They look for physical hazards like wet floors, exposed wiring, people running in the workplace. They assess. They evaluate the risk. Not every hazard carries the same level of risk. Evaluate the likelihood, or how probable is this hazard to cause injury. And then they evaluate the severity. If something happens, how serious could it be? They use control. There is a hierarchy of controls, such as elimination, which can completely eliminate the situation. This is the most effective control. Substitution. Engineering controls. Can something be modified to reduce the risk? For example, an anti-slip rug or adjusting workstation heights. They use administrative controls, such as changing policies or schedules to reduce exposure. They use personal protective equipment or PPE. This is the last line of defense when other controls are not sufficient. PPE should never be the first or only solution. It protects the worker, but it does not remove the hazard. Exhaust higher level controls first. Then document what, where, when, who, the details of the hazard, corrective action taken or planned, and identify an owner. And then they verify. They follow up and confirm that the loop is closed. Hazard identification is not a one-time inspection. It is a daily habit. The most effective safety programs treat every employee as a safety observer, every near miss as a gift, and every injury trend as a message. When employers build systems that find hazards before they find workers, injuries stop being inevitable and start being preventable. Ergonomics is the science of designing the job, equipment, and work environment to fit the worker, not forcing the worker to fit the job. When ergonomics is applied correctly, it reduces physical strain, prevents injury, and improves productivity. Ergonomics is not about making workers comfortable. It is about making work sustainable. Musculoskeletal disorders are the single most expensive and most preventable category of workplace injury. Ergonomic interventions can reduce repetitive work injuries by 50 to 70%, according to OSHA. This is seen in reduced workers' compensation costs, lower absenteeism, higher productivity, and better employee retention. Ignoring ergonomics does not save money. It defers the cost until it arrives later as an injury claim. There are several types of ergonomic situations that you should be looking for. Awkward positions, things like reaching above shoulder height, working with the neck bent forward for extended periods. Repetitive motion, performing the same motion over and over, even a small, seemingly harmless one. Excessive force, significant physical effort, lifting heavy items, gripping tools tightly are some examples. Contact stress, when a hard or sharp edge presses against soft tissues, like resting a palm against the bottom of a tool handle during repeated use. Static postures, holding any position, even a relatively comfortable one, for a prolonged period. Vibration, whole body vibration from operating heavy equipment, and hand-arm vibration from power tools accelerate wear on joints, nerves, and blood vessels. Employers must create a workplace culture where reporting these symptoms early is expected and encouraged. Basic ergonomic awareness is not about buying expensive equipment or overhauling your entire workplace. It starts with understanding how the body works and making small intentional adjustments. The most ergonomic workplace is one where every supervisor and every worker understands that how you do the job matters as much as whether the job gets done. We are providing a list of some of the most common ergonomic considerations by work environment as shown here. This information is also available with the resources we will provide at the end of the training. In closing, workplace injuries don't happen randomly. They follow patterns, and patterns can be interrupted. In Part 1, you learned to identify the most common injury types and where they show up in your workplace. You learned to understand the root causes, training gaps, unsafe equipment, fatigue, and communication failures. You learn to apply prevention strategies, safety check-ins, hazard identification, ergonomics, and building a reporting culture. The most important shift is this: move from reacting to injuries to preventing them. Every checklist completed, every hazard reported, every safety huddle held is an injury that doesn't happen. Everything we've covered today, the safety checklist, the ergonomics information, is available on our website. Scan the QR code for access to this training slideshow, notes, and resources. Thank you for your interest in this topic. Please be sure to attend Module 1, Part 2, where we talk about important steps when a workplace injury occurs.